As a university piano professor, I often get asked by students and teachers alike how to prepare for collegiate piano auditions. And so in today's video, I'm going to walk you through a timeline on how to prepare for collegiate piano auditions. Before I get started with the timeline, there are 4 things that I want you to keep in mind during the college application process. The first one is that there is no one right decision. What I mean by that is a lot of times students who are preparing to go to college and audition for colleges get all tied up in worrying about there being one right place for them, one correct fit. But in fact, there are multiple appropriate and good schools for any given person. There are multiple paths to a career in music, so don't drive yourself crazy trying to get it right. The second thing to keep in mind is the importance of mindset. If you approach this process of college applications and auditions feeling stressed and anxious, then the experience is going to be stressful and anxious for you. But if you find a way to approach it with a spirit of curiosity and adventure, then the whole process is going to be a lot less stressful. The third thing to keep in mind is that the college search is your search. This is about your future. Your family and friends are going to have opinions and advice for you. Your teacher is going to have some opinions and advice for you. But at the end of the day, you're the one who's going to school. You are the one who's enrolling in the college or university. Along the way in your college journey, there are going to be times when you have a gut reaction to something where your intuition is trying to tell you something. Learn to recognize that and lean into that intuition. The fourth thing to keep in mind is that preparation is key. There are going to be a lot of things in this process you don't have control over. You don't have control over who's listening to you at your auditions. You don't have control over whether you're feeling sick or healthy on an audition day. You don't have any control over the mood of the people listening to you. You don't have any control over the number of other applicants and how well they play. But you do have control over how well prepared you are. At a lot of colleges and universities, additional scholarship money is tied directly to how well you play in your audition. So therefore, it's very, very important to be extremely well prepared at your audition. Also, the more prepared you are, the more confident you'll feel. The more confident you feel, the better you'll play. And the better you play, the more positively you will feel about the whole application process. The process of auditioning and applying at various colleges and universities is excellent practice on how to make a good impression and be professional. This will help you in other areas of your professional life as well, even if you do not end up making a career in music. All right, let's get started with the timetable. I'm going to start all the way at your sophomore year or 10th grade of high school. Now, if you don't already know that you want to be a music major, that's totally fine. A lot of people don't decide until later. Some people even enter college as one major and then change their major to music. So you do not have to know by your sophomore year that you want to study music, but if you already do, this is a good time to start preparing. There are 5 things that I recommend working on during your sophomore year if you already know you want to be a music major. First of all, work on your sight reading. This is, in my opinion, the most important skill that a pianist can possess, because if you can sight read well, you can learn music quickly. If you can learn music quickly, that means that you can not only learn your solo music quickly, but you are also versatile. You can accompany people for money. You can get hired to do various things as a pianist if you can sight read well. Secondly, this is a great time to work on your technique. Make sure you can play all the scales. Make sure that you can play all the arpeggios, chord progressions, working on technical exercises and etudes. Third, the sophomore year of high school is a great time to add other skills like jazz and improvisation to your skill set. This can be very useful to you when you're in college. Fourth, high school is a great time to get experience playing collaboratively. If you can play the piano with and for other people, that adds a lot of value to your entire skill set as a pianist. And so look for opportunities that are going to stretch you and give you experience, such as playing for choirs, playing for people for state solo and ensemble competitions, playing in orchestra, wind ensemble, playing for musicals. Anything like that is going to help give you valuable experience. And fifth, I recommend that if you're serious about studying music and you already know it at your sophomore year, that's a great time to make sure you're starting to learn some music theory. While I'm at it, there are 3 additional things that I recommend doing in high school if you already know that you're serious about being a music major someday. First of all, do competitions and scholarship auditions as they come along. Even if you don't really like to play competitively, There's nothing like a performance to help you practice performing. You just can't replicate that experience in any other way. And so thinking of competitions and scholarship auditions as additional performance opportunities will really help you prepare for auditions down the road. If you do well in a competition, you can add that to your resume, which will look really good for college applications. Another advantage of doing competitions and scholarship auditions is that the judges often give written or verbal feedback, and getting feedback from professional pianists who are not just your teacher is really, really useful information. The second thing that I recommend doing in high school, if you're serious about music study in college, is to go to summer camps or festivals, if at all possible. The reason that I recommend participating in summer camps or music festivals is because there's a lot of intensity at one of those camps or music festivals, and then that provides you with exposure to what the musical lifestyle is like. It's an opportunity to meet a lot of other like-minded people and to make friends who also play the piano and learn from them. You'll meet faculty at a lot of different schools who teach at these festivals, and that can be very helpful for you later when you're trying to decide what schools to audition at. And the third thing that I recommend doing if you're serious about pursuing music study in college is playing for master classes if you get opportunities to do so. Sometimes there are guest pianists who come to a community and then they are looking for students to play in the master class, which is really an opportunity to play something that you know really, really well and then be basically taught in front of an audience. And so if you ever get an opportunity to play in a master class, I suggest taking it. Some of my best learning experiences came from times when I played in master classes, because you're going to hear feedback from a teacher that's different from the teacher that you're used to. And so you might get some really specific insights of things that you just hadn't even thought about before. All right, let's move on to the spring semester of your junior year. You've decided that you want to major in music. You're practicing your scales. You're playing collaboratively. You're practicing your sight reading. You're performing as much as possible. You might even go to a summer festival or a camp one of the summers. Now it's time to research schools. When you're researching colleges and universities and trying to decide which ones to apply to, there are basically 7 factors that you should keep in mind. First of all, the size. Some universities are enormous with like 50,000 students, and some universities are really, really small with as few as 500 or 800 students. That is a huge difference in lifestyle and educational experience. So really think hard about the type of learning environment that you are going to thrive in. The second factor to keep in mind when choosing a school is what degree plans do they offer. Some schools are entirely liberal arts schools and they only offer a Bachelor of Arts in Music, which is basically a general music degree, but maybe you're looking for a pre-professional music degree, which would be a Bachelor of Music. So make sure you're looking at the actual degree plans and make sure that the schools you're applying to offer them. Also, you might be considering a double major with music and another type of major. And in that case, look at the university's website and make sure that they actually offer the major that you are thinking of and looking for, and also that it's possible to double major with music and that major, because not every major lends itself to adding a second major too in terms of the curriculum. The third factor to consider is what experiences are available to you as an undergraduate music major. At some schools, there are more opportunities available to the graduate students than to the undergraduate students, and so you want to make sure that the kinds of things that you want to do, such as perform a lot, maybe you want to do some collaborative playing, maybe you want to do chamber music, that's even possible for you as an undergraduate student. You also want to check that you're going to be taught by a professor and not just a graduate student, because some places they teach their undergraduates using graduate students. The fourth factor to consider when looking at schools is the reputation of the school. Is the school really, really famous, or is it not very well known? The more famous a school is, the harder it's going to be to get into. And so what I recommend doing is having a few different categories of school that you look at. So you pick schools that are the most prestigious, most brand name schools, a couple of those if you're really interested in them. Then pick some schools that you feel like if you work really, really hard, you can get into and maybe get a good scholarship offer. And then pick 1 or 2 safety schools that are pretty much a sure bet to get into. Attending a famous school is really not for everybody. A lot of times there's pressure there that you wouldn't experience at a less famous school. And also another thing to keep in mind is that in the field of music, where you did your undergraduate degree is not as big of a factor as where you do your graduate work. So it's not as important that you attend a super famous school during your undergraduate years. Also, the really prestigious schools are going to be less likely to give significant music scholarships simply because they have so many applicants, they don't really need to hand out scholarships in order to attract students to their program. The 5th factor to consider when looking at colleges and universities is geography. How far from home do you want to move? Do you want to stay really nearby, or do you want to move halfway across the country? That's really important for you to think about and think through before you're looking at colleges, because that can really help narrow down your search. The 6th factor to consider is whether a college is religiously affiliated or not religiously affiliated, because that again will narrow down your search significantly. And of course, the 7th factor to consider when looking for a college or university to study music at is the teacher that you would be working with. Who is that teacher? Is it somebody that you already know? Is it somebody you've worked with in the past? Is it somebody who can help you attain your professional goals? Now, you yourself are going to be doing your own work. No teacher can practice for you. No teacher can make professional connections for you. But a teacher really can help you prepare for your life after undergraduate and help you get into a master's program if that's what you want, or they can help you navigate your world outside of school after you have graduated. In April of your junior year is a great time to narrow down the schools that you're going to apply for. I recommend choosing between 4 and 7 schools. And like I said before, make sure that you're picking a range of schools that if you have 1 or 2 that's really, really hard to get into, then make sure you have some that you feel like you have a better shot of getting into, and then probably 1 or 2 safety schools. After you've narrowed down your schools, then you want to go to each school's website and look at the audition requirements. The way to do that is go to the university's website, then go to the music department or school of music portion of the university website, and then under that look for audition and application requirements. If you just navigate to that, you will eventually come to a list for each instrument, look for piano, and then write down what they specify for the audition. If you have any questions about how to interpret that list, then go to the faculty page of the university website and find the piano faculty there and send them an email to ask for clarification. And they should be very happy to help answer your questions. If they don't, that's kind of a red flag right there. Also, for each of the schools that you are planning to audition for, look at the music faculty, look at the piano faculty, read their bios, look and see if they have a separate website on the internet and visit that website, see what you can learn about them, see if you can go look up some performances of theirs, whether it's a professional CD or recordings on the internet somewhere. And then contact those teachers. Pick 1 teacher from each institution you're going to apply at and send them an email. Introduce yourself, tell them something about yourself, tell them what you're planning to audition with. Ask them if they would be available for a short chat, and ask them also if they're available if you come to campus for a sample lesson. Not every professor is going to have time or availability to give a sample lesson, but it's definitely worth asking. If you already know that you're going to be visiting a college campus, then make sure that you email the piano faculty member at that school so you can let them know you're coming and ask if you can meet with them while you're on campus. A lot of times there is not great communication between the main admissions office and individual music faculty. It's just too hard to filter everything down to that level from the admissions office. And so sometimes if you're on campus, the professor that you're interested in studying with would normally be happy to meet with you, but they just don't even know you're there. All right, now we're in May of your junior year. This is the point where you should be choosing your audition repertoire. I have 4 suggestions for you on how to go about choosing your audition repertoire. First of all, avoid playing pieces that everybody else is playing. If you choose something that nobody else is playing and that the audition committee hasn't heard several times that day already, you will stand out. Secondly, choose repertoire that will highlight your strengths. If you are a very expressive player, then choose pieces that really give you the opportunity to show that aspect of your playing. If you are a highly technical player, make sure that you have something included in the program that demonstrates that strength. My third tip is play things that you already know quite well. This is not the time to learn a whole bunch of brand new pieces. And fourth, make sure you choose things that show something technically. Even if you play it very beautifully, if you end up playing just the first movement of the Moonlight Sonata, for example, it's not going to really show very much, and then the committee isn't going to have much of an impression of you. So make sure that what you choose shows what you are capable of technically, so that the audition committee can hear you perform something that highlights that. All right, it's June of your junior year. School is letting out. You have already chosen your schools, you've chosen your audition repertoire, and you've contacted professors at those schools. Now is the time to really get serious about your preparation. If you haven't already, practice your scales and arpeggios. This is part of being a professional pianist, and it will help you refine your technical facility. Also, make sure you're doing at least 10 or 15 minutes of sight reading practice pretty much every day. And again, this is a very, very important skill to have as a pianist. Being a good sight reader will open doors for you professionally. The summer before your senior year is a very important summer to practice the piano a lot. So make sure that you have opportunity to do so. It's a good time to go to camp. It's a good time to go to a summer festival. You should plan to continue lessons with your teacher if you stay home. And if they don't teach over the summer, then ask them permission to study with somebody else and ask them for a recommendation for somebody to work with during the summer. Summer is a very, very important time for you to be getting regular piano study and to make serious progress on your audition pieces. You really want to have everything ready to go by the end of the summer. September and October of your senior year are good times to schedule campus visits if you didn't already do that during your junior year. This is a great time to ask faculty at the schools you're planning to apply to for sample lessons. And I know that can be a little bit scary to email somebody randomly and ask them for a sample lesson, but just know that it's really our job to recruit students, and so most of the time university faculty should be quite happy to hear from you and be eager to set something up for you. And if you write to a college professor to ask them about studying with them or about possibly meeting and having a sample lesson and they just don't reply at all, that's a red flag, and you should really take that into consideration when you're thinking about schools, because if they're not even bothering to reply to you, how much of an investment are they going to make in their students if you do attend that school? When you visit campus, don't only just plan on having a sample lesson with the teacher. See if there are any piano students that you can meet. See if there are any classes you can visit. Schedule a campus visit so that you can kind of get an insight as to what it would be like there as a student. By now, we're moving into November of your senior year. I recommend applying to schools that you're serious about by November 1st if possible. And the reason for that is because a lot of schools have what's called an early action deadline, and that lines you up for maximal consideration for scholarship and financial aid. Not all schools have an early action deadline, but enough schools do that I think it's a good idea to just apply to everything by November 1st. Then you're in the system for all the schools at that point. If your school requires a pre-screening recording, the deadline for pre-screening recordings is often November 15th or December 1st, depending on the school. So to do a pre-screening recording, you want to make sure it's as professional as possible. Do your pre-screening recording way before the application deadline so that all you have to do is take the recordings that you've made and submit them. It's a really good idea to have those recordings done well in advance so that you're not scrambling when the time comes. Now, in the 6 or 7 weeks between mid-November and early January, that's when you're going to want to do a lot of playthroughs and practice performances of your audition repertoire. By this time, you should have it really well learned, it should be solidly memorized, and you're not in the note learning phase of anything. Because you picked your repertoire all the way back in the spring, and then you practiced it like crazy over the summer, and then by the beginning of the fall, it was ready to go. And so now you are just refining and practicing your performance mindset. During this phase of preparation, you should be recording yourself regularly and then playing back and listening to yourself critically so that you know exactly what to improve. Also, it's a good time to play for family, for friends, to do complete playthroughs of your audition repertoire. Also, if there are any other opportunities to perform, like maybe at a nursing home or a school or a hospital, anything like that that will give you the opportunity to play your program, a house concert, or even scheduling a recital for yourself, those will all be very helpful activities as you prepare for your auditions. My recommendation is to have 10 to 12 complete playthroughs of your program as performance preparation for your auditions. January and February are audition months. These are the months when you're going to go around and take your auditions at the schools that you chose. I have 3 tips for you to keep in mind. First of all, if it is at all possible, try to go in person to your audition. It is just so much better than hearing a Zoom audition or a pre-recorded audition, and then the faculty really will be able to connect with you and get more of a complete impression of you as they meet and talk to you and listen to you play. Secondly, kind of for the same reason, I would recommend taking an audition date that's earlier in the cycle rather than one of the last audition dates, because then you will be in the forefront of the mind of the people who are hearing the auditions, and also at some schools that puts you in better consideration for music scholarship funding. My third suggestion for you as you do your auditions in January and February is to hone your performance mindset. You've already done your performances, your playthroughs in the month of November and December, and you should feel quite comfortable with your repertoire already at that point. But you can go a step further and practice visualization, practice imagining your audition exactly as it's going to go. Make a mantra for yourself that's very empowering, something that really gets you pepped up. And also give some thought to your pre-performance routine so that you are in the habit of thinking certain things, doing certain things, eating certain things the day of your audition to set yourself up for success. In March and April, you've already done your work. That's your time to wait for your decisions. Most universities and colleges will tell you their decision by April 1st. And then you typically have until May 1st to make a final decision. And what I recommend is that if you already know that you have ruled out a school for whatever reason, then communicate with that school to let them know that you will not be accepting their offer. That's just good etiquette. And also, if a faculty member took the time to meet with you and give you a sample lesson, then go ahead and email them personally, because they will be very happy to know that you made your decision. You don't have to worry that anybody's going to get mad at you. While a faculty member might be disappointed that you're not going to be going to their school, they'll be actually glad that they have an answer so that they can offer something to a different student who will be more likely to come. Maybe they were on the wait list. They can take somebody off the wait list and then make an actual offer to them. The music world is relatively small, so even if you do not attend a school where you made a connection with a professor or a program, your paths might cross at another time professionally, and so you want to make sure that you handle yourself in a very professional and polite way. Now, if you are on the fence and you just can't decide between schools, then you don't have to feel pressure to decide quickly. It's just that if you've already made up your mind and you ruled out a school, then make sure you communicate that. But like I said, if you need time to really think it over, to really weigh pros and cons, and really imagine yourself at a couple different schools and you just can't decide, then that's okay. Take the time you need to make the correct decision. Resist the pressure that you might be feeling from family or friends or even from university professors or recruitment agents at different universities. But remember what I said at the beginning of this video. There is no one right decision. There are a lot of paths into the field of music, and it a lot of times feels like a big decision, like the biggest decision of your life is like, where am I going to go to college? But in fact, You're going to have meaningful experiences wherever you go, and every college is going to have pros and cons. You can receive an excellent education at so many different schools. Your life has its own trajectory, and there are many paths to becoming a professional musician if that's what you want to do. The most important thing is working hard and remaining open to opportunities no matter what school you end up attending. I made a free downloadable checklist that follows the timeline for undergraduate auditions. You can grab it by clicking on the link in the description below. Good luck with your college search. You got this. If you have any questions about the process or anything that you want clarification on from this video, leave your question in the comments below and I'll get back to you. I'll see you in my next video, and happy practicing.